Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the tools, advice, and strategy you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now, on to this week's show.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. This is Travis, and this week it's going to be a little bit different. I am not joined by Josiah, and we'll get into that in just a little bit, but I just wanted to welcome you all to the Print on Demand Cast. Thanks for tuning in. Wanted to drop something for you guys so you'd have something, even though things are a little bit crazy in Print on Demand Cast world. So the first question you're asking is, why am I solo this week? And unfortunately, I have some really bad news. This past week, Josiah lost his father, Joe Cifuentes. And it's been a really rough week, obviously, for him. We've been, thinking a lot about him, saying a lot of prayers for him. We have Josiah and I are in a community of a lot of people that were a lot of Christians, and there's a large fellowship that we've, kind of are a part of. And there's a lot of people that are really thinking about Josiah and what he's going through right now with the loss of his father. And his family is really tied into a lot of people here in Colorado. Joe was the pastor of Crown of Life Fellowship in Riverton, Wyoming. And so, which is where Josiah was, born and raised in Riverton, and obviously has family there and lots of friends. And so he's traveled back there to be with friends and family as they celebrate Joe's life and comfort each other. So that's why I'm solo this week. Just to say, I never really actually met Joe. I was at the wedding. He did the wedding for Josiah and Madeline, Josiah's wife, and I was at the wedding. I met Joe, but I never really got to know him. But from the things that I'm hearing and reading, online, on Josiah's Facebook page and just people reaching out and talking about Joe, he was really, really a great guy, loved by a lot of people, really helped a lot of people. He was in ministry for basically his whole life. He was, like I said, he was a pastor of Crown of Life Fellowship since I think 2006 is when he actually started that church. But before then, he was a pastor for 22 years. So he really did a lot of really great things and touched a lot of people's lives. And obviously, Josiah's going through it. So if you want to reach out to him, and just tell him that you're thinking about him, I think that would be appropriate. Let's not overwhelm him. Let's give him some time. He's going to be in Riverton. I may be solo again next week on the podcast. I'm not sure. I just wanted to, again, get something out for you guys so you knew what was going on. It's obviously hard to transition from something like that. But I don't want this just to be an announcement podcast. I actually want to, give you guys some value. So, but I wanted to start by saying thank you for those of you who have left reviews on iTunes. And I wanted to give a shout out to Chris Kretz, who gave us a 5-star review. And I wanted to read out his post here that he posted on iTunes. He said it was the best show for POD entrepreneurs. And I tip my cap to you, Chris. I don't know about the best show, but I really do appreciate those kind words. And then he says, since the very first episode, I was hooked. Travis and Josiah covered the full gamut of the printing industry and make it relatable to everyone, no matter where they're at or where they intend to be. I love the fact that they're actually in all facets of the business, from printing to sales to POD customers, and even input from direct to consumers via Etsy stores. Thanks you guys for all you do. Well, thank you, Chris, for leaving that really awesome 5-star review. It means a lot to us, and we appreciate it. As a matter of fact, Chris and I have had a lot of conversations. I've actually fulfilled orders for Chris recently, and so he's a good dude, and he puts his money where his mouth is. He doesn't just leave 5-star reviews. He actually comments in our group and emails us and gives us ideas and things like that. So if you like this show and have been inspired to maybe start on your print-on-demand journey, or if we've helped you in some way, we would love for you to rank us or rate us on iTunes, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. And you can reach all those places by going to printondemandcast.com. There's links to all of the places that we are active on or we're podcasting to down at the bottom. You can also go to get to our YouTube channel. You can go to printondemandcast.com/YouTube, and I'll leave it at that. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, but it's now time for this week's Point of Interest. Point of Interest, part of the show. You want to learn some things, so the point of interest is where you go. Listen to what I say. All right, so on this week's Point of Interest, I just wanted to give you guys a quick idea. How about end of school gifts? Now, 2020 and through the 2021 school year was obviously an incredibly tough year for all of the faculty and the administration of all these different schools that our children go to. And so it makes a lot of sense, particularly this year. Now, this is a niche you can get into every single year, but particularly this year, it's very appropriate that people would want to express their thanks to teachers because, let's face it, guys, doing in-home learning with kids, we know as parents, it's really hard on us, but then you've got these teachers who are all of a sudden throwing this curveball, who are used to teaching in class, in person. Now they've got to do it on Zoom, and they've got entire classrooms of kids who some of them are tuning out, and et cetera, et cetera. It was just such a shock to the system for everyone, of course, but for these teachers, they really went above and beyond for our children. And so I think a lot of people out there are going to want to thank them, the teachers specifically, but also the administration, the principals, the assistant principals, et cetera, et cetera. But then beyond that, the bus drivers, the cafeteria workers, all of those other people, the coaches, everyone had to adapt this year because of coronavirus. And so it makes a lot of sense that people would want to thank those people. Now, this may not be like top of mind, I need to get a gift for my kid's teacher or my kid's bus driver or my, the cafeteria worker, whatever. But it can be top of mind with your help. And so here's what I suggest. I would suggest you, once you've got some cool designs, targeting maybe some of these different people, I have several different items that target specifically bus drivers that always do well at the end of the year. And so, once you've got some designs created for teachers and for bus drivers and for cafeteria, all these different people, principals, assistant principals, you can go down the list, coaches, go ahead, get those items mocked up and then post in your local town's Facebook or, the town of your school, or your school district or that area, and talk about that school and how thankful you are. And because of that, you really want to show thanks to these people. And so you've created these products that people can get. And then you can actually put that out there, and if people are interested, they can contact you. You can also, if you want to actually like sell it on Facebook, you can do that through Facebook Marketplace. And it's very easy, just, exchanging a few messages. You can even have people pay on Facebook. Or you can, we've done a lot of, personally, myself and my wife, when we get, products back and we can't sell them again online, we'll just, we'll throw them on Facebook Marketplace and do Venmo or Cash App or something like that. So there's a big opportunity there. You just want to, focus your post on how grateful that we are for these people who have made all of these sacrifices for our children. And what that will do, it will remind people, oh yeah, I'm also thankful. I want to thank these people. I should get them a gift. And even if they don't buy a gift from you, who cares? They're going to, it's going to be top of mind, and maybe they get something else for them, but it's really helping these teachers and these administrators in these schools who really went through the ringer this year, feel better. So, and, it could also help you get some sales in the meantime. So that's this week's point of interest, just an idea that, you can take advantage of. There's still enough time. Most schools end sometime in May. Sometimes they go through early June, but you've got a little bit of time to kind of get that together, get it all situated, get your mock-ups ready, craft your Facebook or, Twitter or what, I don't know. I think personally, Facebook's probably the best way to go with this particular thing. I mean, obviously you can still post these on, Amazon and Etsy and all of that. But I think sticking, because you have a presence in your local community, and obviously this is if you have children, but you have a presence in your local community, you have a vested interest in those teachers and those administrators doing well and feeling appreciated. It really does make sense for you to contribute to your local community. And this does somewhat tie in to the next part of our podcast. So let's go ahead and just transition to the main event of the episode. It's the main event. Talk about your prince. They're sitting on the fence. This is the main event. All right, this week's main event. We're going to be talking about helping other people make money. Now, you're thinking, well, Travis, this podcast is about you helping me make money. Well, yeah. But I think the one thing that all businesses share is their ability and their ability to help other people solve problems. That's what business comes out of. Any type of exchange of goods or services is always going to be a result of solving people's problems. And everybody wants to make more money. So that's a universal problem. I mean, relatively universal. Everyone. So if you can figure out a way to make other people money, that in and of itself is valuable to other people, and they will pay you for that. Maybe not in a direct way, but in a roundabout way, you can make money by helping other people make money. So recently, Make Your Mark Design was able to help a very well-known influencer with a product drop that they did. And so this influencer, I'm not going to name any names, but they are very popular. Like, people know who, if I said this particular person, you would know who they were, most likely. And, but they have several different things going on and different brands and different projects and everything. And this was for one of their smaller projects. So it wasn't like a huge, massive thing. But one of the things that we realized when we helped them with this particular drop was that they had a ton of unrealized potential in this particular niche that they were targeting. This particular niche, they had a podcast, and they were dropping this product through their podcast, but their podcast was directed at this niche that was very, very popular and had a lot of unrealized potential. And it has a lot of potential. I think other people are realizing it, but these particular influencers have not realized it yet. And so this is where we can come in and help these other people make money. Because if they make money, then they're going to use us to fulfill their products. We're going to make money as a result of that. And we have this relationship with people that can then, become a networking opportunity where they tell someone else that also has influence, hey, this person helped me do this. They did a great job. We've been successful. Here's the success we've had. You should also talk to them. And so then it's that whole networking effect that happens when you actually try to invest in other people. It's a natural byproduct of that. So this is where, like I said, this is where we come in. So one of the things that, we can do with unrealized potential, we can talk about their digital assets. And, particularly this particular influencer was using Shopify, but their Shopify was just not optimized. It just didn't look good. They had some, they didn't really have any headers that, clickable links, it really wasn't a lot going on with the Shopify. It was literally like, hey, we have this thing, click here, get it. And then they had some product mockups. There wasn't anything that was telling a story that was helping them in any way communicate anything other than we've got something and we want you to buy it, which, it's just not that attractive to a potential customer. So what we want to do is we want to come in and say, hey, we could potentially design this, this banner for your Shopify or here's some copy that you may consider talking about you, and or here's some ideas for things that you could talk about with copy that would, maybe put it on this page, and here's a layout for your menu structure, and here's how we think you should do that. Obviously, this includes some design options that we're going to give them, so it's not just, the logo of their podcast on a coffee mug or a t-shirt or a whatever product. Maybe there's some again, going back to the focus and the niche of their podcast, they've got, a specific niche. Let's start building a brand around this particular niche, as opposed to just getting merch out with the idea of the podcast. And so potential options for them for designs that would start building a coherent brand. And so the goal, or the vision that we're trying to give to this, to these influencers, is let's not have the podcast drive sales of merch. Let's have a brand that makes people aware of a podcast that ties into the brand. And so the brand becomes the thing, because, let's face it, I run a podcast. It doesn't make a lot of money. It just doesn't. We do this because we really enjoy it. And hopefully someday, maybe it'll make us some money. We would love to help fulfill for people and for customers. And maybe we'll make some money through that, just being out there and, that whole network effect that I talked about a moment ago. But a podcast itself really doesn't make a lot of money unless you start getting advertisers and things like that, which, you can make a lot of money with a podcast. I don't want to, but when you start out, you really don't. However, a brand, every time you sell something, you're making money. Every single customer is spending money with you. And so let's kind of flip the script. Let's give them a vision for flipping the script and saying, let's make the brand the thing, and the podcast becomes this ancillary thing that people are discovering, that as people discover the podcast, they discover the brand, and that's good. But as people discover the brand, they're discovering the podcast. And it's kind of this, both things are feeding each other. And so we would give them potential product mock-ups for these different design options that we gave them. And all of this really focuses on what can we do to help benefit our customers or our clients or the people that we are trying to help build a brand that, they need us to help fulfill these products for them. So focusing a lot of times. So here's the problem. A lot of times we focus so much on the bottom line, our bottom line in our businesses, that we forget that one of the best ways to boost that bottom line is to actually help other people. So recently, I had one of our DTG operator she gave her 2 weeks notice and she's moving on to another job. And so I had to post a job listing. And I post this job listing. I just threw it up in our local area Facebook, kind of community. Hey, if anybody's interested, we're a local print shop. And, we do T-shirts and drinkware and things like that. And if you're interested or if you need a job or if you know somebody who does, we'd sure appreciate you sharing this Craigslist post, with them. And so I linked the Craigslist post in the Facebook group. Do you know from that one post, I got 3 people asking me to quote jobs. They didn't want a job themselves. They wanted me to do a job. They wanted me to quote them. So this one girl, she needed her husband's birthday was in a few days, and he had said, "Oh, I really like this shirt. It's really cool. Do you think you could get it for me?" And she's like, "I don't know where to get a shirt." And then she saw my post and she was like, "Hey, can you help me out?" So I was able to help her out and get her, do a quick turnaround on that job. She paid really well for it because she needed design help and as well as actually having a front and back print on. It was a single T-shirt, but I was able to do that and help her. And she was, when she picked it up, she was like, "That is the coolest shirt. Oh my gosh, this is so cool. I have all these other things. I'm going to, I want to do this and this and this." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. That's great." And it's that whole, again, that networking effect. Now she has a local place that she knows she can get really cool garments from. And if anyone ever asks her where to get garments or she overhears something, she's going to point him to us. It's guaranteed. So this other person, they have a small business and they have, they wanted a whole bunch of T-shirts and some masks and a whole bunch of stuff. It was over $200, job that came from that. And then a third person, they asked for a quote for some, athletic wear that we weren't able to kind of come together, but she was like, "Okay, well, I need it by, she basically needed it too soon for me to actually be able to get to it and get it done because it was a whole, several different teams and different things like that. And I wasn't ready for that." And she was like, "Well, that's great. At least I know where to go next year when we come back to, our little league season." So my point is that this very simple post that I posted on Facebook created these opportunities for people to actually buy, and we think we're constantly thinking about the bottom line. And when we have an opportunity to help others, and even when we don't even realize it, we're helping others just by allowing people to see what we do. And so that leads me into my last point is that how often do you share on social media about what you do? And this for me is a challenge. And I was challenged even as recently as the last 3 or 4 months that I don't post enough on social media about what I do. And I think that goes to a little bit of fear that what will people think of me? How will I respond to people who want things? Maybe they're going to ask me for things I can't do, and I'm afraid of that. And I'm just being real with you guys because, why not? But I was really challenged. Like, I'm not necessarily I'm not helping other people by hiding my light under a bushel, if you want to go back to biblical stuff. I have this ability. I have this ability to help people with a specific need. And I don't want to hide that. I want to share that with people. I want them to know it. And it may come across as self-promoting, but I can't control how people interpret what I post or what I say. But it also can come across as like, "Oh, I know where I can get this thing that I need because I know Travis and he's a good guy and I trust him and I already have a relationship with him. So of course I'm going to go to him." And so I'm able to help that person with whatever it is that they need. And I'm able to benefit from, just getting another job, and the bottom line actually benefits. So who knows what other people can benefit from based on what you've already learned in POD. There's this thing called the imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it's basically me saying that I'm going to butcher this is actually that indicates that I have a little bit of imposter syndrome even talking about this. That's really ironic. But the imposter syndrome basically is, it basically is showing, or it's something that I experience when I don't think I have as much, or I realize how little knowledge I have about a subject. So in other words, if I start learning about, let's just take print on demand, I start learning about it and I keep learning and learning more and more, and even have a production facility, the more I learn about print on demand, the more I realize I don't know. There's so much more that I don't know. And because I'm always learning and always trying to learn, I'm listening to people that in my brain know more than me all the time. And so that just reinforces this imposter syndrome that I'm faking it, or that I'm an imposter in this arena of print on demand and don't really know all that much. And so it causes me to have fear about posting on Facebook, because what if they ask me a question I don't know? What if they ask me, for a product that I can't do or I don't know how to do, and then I try to do it and I fail, and then I make myself to look like a fool. There's so many things that the imposter syndrome can get in the way of. And so I would encourage you, as somebody who listens to this podcast, you know so much more than you realize. You are not an imposter in this industry. The other thing that you can do is, because you have resources like our podcast or our Facebook group and other people that are in that Facebook group, and myself and Josiah, you have us as resources. You can find out the answers to those questions that you're afraid others will ask when you post on social media about what you do. So you have resources. And so I just want to encourage you not to be afraid, not to give in to the imposter syndrome. I mean, honestly, we didn't start this podcast for quite a long time after we had started talking about it. And I guarantee, at least on my part, I can't speak for Josiah, but on my part, it was mainly because of an imposter syndrome. I was so convinced that I didn't have enough information to give to people that would help them, that I just didn't really want to do it. I was afraid. I talked a good game, but I was afraid of what I didn't know. And I will tell you that imposter syndrome, I still experience it to this day. Like, I'm thinking about it right now. There are a lot of things, even in the way we help influencers and the way we can, help them with their Shopify and all these things. There's a lot I don't know about. As a matter of fact, I'm literally recording this on a Saturday. I'm in my office. I was spending the afternoon here trying to figure out something on UV, and I still can't figure it out. And so what am I doing? I'm posting on Facebook. I'm emailing people. I'm asking questions. I'm trying to figure this out, but I can't. That's one of the reasons we've never had an episode on UV, because I don't know enough about it. I could talk a little bit about it, but I don't know enough about it to really talk intelligently about it. And so it creates this fear that someone's going to ask me a question that I'm not going to know the answer to. Well, the bottom line is, get over it. There are things you'll never know, or there are things that you don't know, and there are things that people will ask you 5 years from now that you still don't know. And that's okay, because other people do know. And because you're in the industry, you have access to get answers for people. And, sometimes the answer is, I can't do that for you, or I don't have the resources to get that product for you. And that is a totally okay thing. As a matter of fact, that job that I talked about with the Facebook person that asked for shirts and masks, I ordered masks to bring in because I was going to try to DTG them on my machine. And at the end of the day, I tried and I tried to figure out jigs and I spent time on it. And at the end of the day, I was like, I am not going to get this. I don't want to make the customer wait. So I went outside. I outsourced those masks for that client. And I went ahead and ordered them in and said, hey, I've got your t-shirts, but the masks are going to take a little bit longer. And so we're still waiting on the masks to come in. And the funny thing is, I still actually made a little bit of a profit on the masks. Now, you can't, I mean, my time, obviously, I'm not going to get that back, but just dollar for dollar, I still actually was able to make a little bit of money. And so, but now I know if someone else needs masks, I know where to go and I know how to get them done at a reasonable price where I can quote them at a certain price and I can still make a product or a profit, because I'm spending my time doing that for that client. But I would not have known that had I not tried. Also, I have a bunch of extra masks that I can give to my family to wear because masks are not returnable. Ba-dum boom. Okay. So anyway, we just hit the 30-minute mark. Like I said at the beginning, this podcast was going to be a little shorter, just because of the fact that, I'm solo. It's a lot easier to do a podcast when, you can kind of riff off each other and go back and forth. And that's why I really, really love co-hosting this with Josiah. He's such a good dude, and we've been through a lot, and really do miss him this week, and thinking about him and his family as they go through this rough time. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and leave it there, guys. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for all the support you give us. Want to encourage you to join our Facebook group if you already haven't, printondemandcast.com/Facebook. Also, if you know somebody who is in print on demand and they're not in our Facebook group or they're not listening to this podcast, would you share it with them? That would be really cool. Or even like invite them to the Facebook group. I think you might even be able to add them right from Facebook. That'd be really cool. We want to continue to grow that community just for all the reasons I've been talking about. So we all have resources. If we don't know something, we can go to those other people and, we can go to that Facebook group and we can hopefully get an answer or find somebody who does have the answer. So you can always get the podcast at printondemandcast.com. Email us at info@printondemandcast.com if you've got questions or suggestions for the show. Like I said at the beginning, rate it on iTunes and subscribe to us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. We also have a YouTube channel. This particular video, I'm recording this audio only. It will not be on there, but we do have several of our last 7 or 8 episodes as YouTube videos. You can go there. That's printondemandcast.com/YouTube. And you can subscribe to that as well. We really appreciate you guys. I think that's it for me and for Josiah remotely. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week right here on the Print on Demand Cast. See ya. See what I did there?
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next week.